I never thought I'd be fighting to get into my own house. But that morning, standing in front of my front door, I realized something was horribly wrong. The lock had been changed. Not by a locksmith, not by me, but by someone who thought they had the power to control my life. HOA, Karen. It all started months earlier, with minor complaints about safety, hazards, and property aesthetics. At first, I brushed them off. Karen had a reputation for being overbearing, a classic HOA enforcer who thrived on nitpicking. But when her complaints escalated into official notices and threats of fines, I knew I was dealing with someone who didn't just bend rules, they twisted them to fit her own agenda. That morning I called her, politely at first, demanding she explain why my locks had been changed. She laughed over the phone, a chilling, self-satisfied laugh, and told me she had the authority to prevent me from entering my home until my supposed violations were addressed. My heart sank. My wife was at home, preparing for a big presentation later that day, and my kids were playing in the living room, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold. I tried reasoning with her. I sent emails, called her bluff, even involved the local authorities. But she played the game perfectly. Every time I pressed, she shifted the rules, citing obscure HOA bylaws that were barely legible and likely unenforceable. By mid-morning, I realized there was only one way to fight back. I had to gather evidence and take her lies straight to court. I immediately grabbed my camera, documenting everything. Emails, recorded phone calls, pictures of the changed lock, and security footage from our front door. Each piece told the same story. Karen was abusing her authority, trying to intimidate a family into compliance with rules she made up as she went. I knew the court wouldn't just see a house dispute, they'd see a pattern of harassment, and if I presented it correctly, it would be undeniable. By the time I reached the courthouse, my nerves were frayed, but my determination was ironclad. I had spent months preparing, and now it was time to reveal the truth, not just for me, but for every family under her oppressive rule. I had the evidence, the story, and a plan to dismantle her lies piece by piece. Little did I know, what would happen in that courtroom would shock everyone. Not just the jury, but Karen herself. I wasn't just going to expose her actions. I was going to make her regret ever thinking she could control my family. I knew showing up at court empty-handed would be a disaster. Karen was cunning, and she would spin any story to make it seem like I was the problem. That's why I decided to turn the situation into an airtight case. I wasn't just documenting what she had done, I was preparing a play-by-play that no jury could ignore. The first thing I did was review the security footage from our front door camera. Every frame told a story. Karen walking up to our house, pulling tools from her bag, and changing the lock with her own hands. There was no one else there. No authorized HOA contractor, no warning, just Karen taking matters into her own hands. Watching it again, I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger because she had crossed a line that could have endangered my family, and relief because now I had undeniable proof. Next came the emails. Karen had sent countless messages claiming we were in violation of imaginary rules. Some were absurd, like telling us our garden gnome was out of compliance and that our mailbox was off-brand. Others were more serious, claiming we were blocking fire lanes or misusing our property. I printed every single email, time-stamped and highlighted the lies. I also recorded our phone conversations. Karen had a habit of speaking calmly at first, only to reveal her threats in the final moments of the call. I captured every word. On one call, she actually said, "You can't enter your house until I say so," playing. That in court would make her look unreasonable, no, manipulative, and it would show the jury the kind of person we were dealing with. Then came the neighborhood witnesses. Our neighbors had seen Karen lurking around my house at odd hours, taking photos of our property and asking intrusive questions about our schedules. I asked them to write statements. Some were hesitant at first, not wanting to get involved. But once they realized Karen's actions could affect more than just our family, they stepped forward. By the time I had all the evidence compiled, video, audio, emails, and witness statements, I felt ready. Not just ready to argue my case, but ready to expose Karen for who she truly was. I knew that when the day came, the jury would see the full story unfold, and they would understand the stress and fear my family endured just because one woman wanted control. The stage was set. All that remained was the courtroom. But walking in, presenting all this evidence live, and watching Karen squirm, that would be the moment that changed everything. The day of the hearing finally arrived. As I walked into the courtroom, my heart was pounding, but I felt a strange sense of calm. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Every email, every video clip, every witness statement was ready. I wasn't just going to argue my case, I was going to reveal the truth in a way Karen could never deny. From the moment she walked in, Karen tried to wear her confident mask. She smiled at the judge, nodded at the bailiff, and even glanced at me as if to say, "You don't stand a chance." But I knew better. I had the evidence that would strip away her act and show the jury the real story. A woman abusing her power, trying to intimidate a family in their own home. The judge called the case and I began presenting the evidence. First, the emails. I showed each one, highlighting the absurdities and false claims. Karen squirmed as the words were read aloud, each email revealing a new layer of her harassment. The jury started leaning in, clearly engaged, murmuring quietly among themselves. This was working. Next came the phone recordings. I played them live in court. Karen's voice filled the room, first calm, then threatening. "You cannot enter your house until I say so." The courtroom went silent. The jury's eyes widened, and Karen's confident mask began to crack. She tried to interject, but the judge firmly instructed her to remain silent. Every word she had spoken was now on the record, and there was no way to spin it. Then I played the security footage from our front door. The video showed Karen arriving at our house, changing the lock and walking away, all caught clearly on camera. The jury could see it as clearly as if they had been standing in my driveway. Karen's face turned pale. She muttered something under her breath, but no one heard it over the clear evidence projected for everyone to see. Finally, I called our neighbors to testify. They confirmed what the recordings and emails already showed. Karen had harassed my family repeatedly, entering the property line of her own volition and trying to control our lives. One by one, they recounted the odd hours she visited, the photos she took, and the intimidation they witnessed. The jury was fully engaged. The story was complete. By the time I finished, Karen had no defense. Her lies were fully exposed, her manipulations laid bare. The jury had seen the full scope of her behavior and understood exactly what my family had endured. The tension in the room was palpable. The courtroom was tense as the jury filed back in after deliberation. I sat with my hands clasped, feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Months of preparation, sleepless nights, and endless evidence had led to this moment. My family, seated behind me, held their breath. This wasn't just about a lock or an HOA dispute anymore. It was about standing up to someone who tried to control our lives. When the jury foreperson finally spoke, I could feel the weight of every word before it even came out. "We find in favor of the plaintiff," she said. Relief, joy, and vindication hit me all at once. Karen's face was a mixture of disbelief and fury. She had tried to manipulate the system, but the truth had prevailed. The evidence, the emails, recordings, security footage, and witness testimony had left no room for her lies. The judge imposed strict orders. Karen was barred from entering our property and faced penalties for her harassment. The decision went beyond monetary fines. It was a clear message that abuse of power and intimidation would not be tolerated. My family and I could finally breathe, free from fear. And our home could be what it was always meant to be. A safe place. After the hearing, I reflected on what had happened. Karen had underestimated the power of thorough documentation and preparation. She thought confidence and authority alone could intimidate us. But evidence and truth always have a stronger voice. The entire process taught me that standing up against harassment requires not just courage, but strategy and persistence. Outside the courtroom, neighbors who had quietly supported us for months came up to congratulate us. Some admitted they had been too afraid to speak earlier, but seeing the outcome gave them hope. This wasn't just a victory for my family. It was a warning to anyone who believed that overstepping boundaries could go unchecked. Our story would serve as a reminder that even one person can make a difference if they're prepared to fight for what's right. That night, back at home, I walked through my front door, finally unlocked with my own key. The relief was overwhelming. My wife hugged me, my kids ran around laughing, and for the first time in months, our home felt truly safe. Karen's attempts to control us had failed spectacularly, and justice had been served in a way that no lies or intimidation could undo. As I sat with my family, I realized something important. Standing up against harassment is never easy, but when you document everything, remain calm and tell the truth, you can triumph. Karen had tried to lock me out, but in the end, she had locked herself into defeat. This is the story of how one determined family took control back from someone who overstepped their bounds and won. If you loved seeing how we took down HOA Karen, hit that subscribe button for more crazy real-life HOA stories. Don't forget to like and comment below. Tell us what you would do if this happened to you.